Imagine eyes so wide and full, filled not just with dust, but with a fragile glimmer of hope that somehow refuses to die. Sujoud, a small girl, walks through streets ripped apart by devastation, her tiny hands sifting through heaps of plastic and debris, searching for something, anything, to light a fire. Every piece she picks up carries the weight of her survival, each fragment of trash a lifeline in a world that has forgotten her existence. Her gaze meets yours, and in that moment, the depth of her struggle strikes your heart. Black ? Ornament. What would you feel if your daughter, your sister, your niece had to survive by scavenging through trash just to have something to eat? Comment with one word the emotion this image awakens in you. A bomb explodes in the distance. Smoke curls into the sky, dark and suffocating. Yet Sujoud flinches not. She has grown numb to the symphony of destruction, the rhythm of war now the backdrop of her childhood. Imagine a life where the laughter of games is replaced by the deafening roar of gunfire, where the lullabies of mothers are drowned out by the cries of sirens. Think back to your own childhood. What sounds do you remember? Was it laughter, songs, joy? Or could you even imagine it being the sound of explosions and fear? Comment no more war if you want a world where no child grows up among rubble. Sujoud gathers shards of plastic, tiny scraps that most people would throw away without a second thought. Yet for her, they are precious, they are survival. She sparks a small flame, the meager heat cooking the little food she can find. While other children light candles on birthday cakes, Sujoud lights waste, her every action a testament to resilience forged in unimaginable hardship. Sujoud's stomach growls, but not from laziness or neglect, it growls from the kind of hunger that gnaws at your bones, that whispers in your ear and makes sleep impossible. She remembers the days when she ate nothing but plastic scraps soaked in water, the bitter taste of survival lingering long after the meal is gone. Can you imagine the emptiness of a body that craves nourishment yet finds only trash? Every bite she now takes, every small morsel that fills her stomach, is a triumph against a world that has denied her the most basic right, to eat without fear. Sujoud should be laughing, chasing kites, or learning songs with her friends. Instead, she carries the weight of destruction on her small shoulders, every step on the rubble a reminder that innocence has been stolen from her. She counts plastic pieces instead of stars, and her lullabies are the distant echoes of bombs. What would it feel like to watch your child grow up in a world where play is forbidden, where joy is dangerous, and where each day is a battle for survival? Tiny hands, blackened with soot and dust, work tirelessly, turning refuse into life-saving fire. Sujoud knows no other way, yet every movement is deliberate, every action a quiet act of bravery. While others waste time complaining about trivial struggles, she has mastered the art of survival, transforming despair into tiny sparks of hope. Would you have the courage to survive with nothing but scraps, smoke, and your own resolve? Comment below with one word that shows the admiration or heartbreak this evokes. At night, Sujoud curls up under a torn blanket, listening to the wind whistle through shattered windows and broken walls. The shadows of homes that no longer stand stretch across the floor, reminding her that the world she once knew has vanished. Memories of laughter, school lessons, and warm meals flicker in her mind like distant stars, beautiful yet unreachable. She dreams not of toys or sweets, but of a life where fire is sparked from wood, not plastic, where hunger doesn't dictate every choice. Every sleepless night leaves her stronger, but also painfully aware of what she has lost. Sujoud's story is not unique around her. Children vanish into the cracks of war, left unseen and unheard. Adults avert their eyes, thinking survival is simple or luck-based. But the truth is cruel. Survival here is a science, a daily negotiation with death. Every discarded plastic bag is a meal, every scrap of hope a fragile lifeline. As she works, her small body aching, she bears the invisible weight of neglect, a burden no child should carry. Yet in the midst of ruins, something begins to shift. A small act of kindness, a warm meal, a smile, a hand reaching out, becomes a seed of hope. Sujoud's eyes, once clouded with fatigue and despair, begin to shine with possibility. The fire she lights no longer only cooks scraps, it becomes a beacon of resilience, signaling that survival does not have to be the end of her story. What would it feel like to watch a child rise from suffering, one small spark at a time? Comment one word that describes the hope you feel seeing Sujoud fight to live. Every day that Sujoud eats a proper meal, every moment she no longer fears the taste of plastic, she reclaims a piece of herself stolen by war. She laughs softly when she thinks no one is watching, her voice a whisper of defiance against the chaos around her. The rubble still surrounds her, but inside her chest, a steady flame grows, proof that even in the darkest corners, life persists and hope can thrive. Sujoud's stomach growls, a hollow echo of the emptiness she has carried for years. There is no bread, no fruit, no sweet treat to soften the harshness of her days. There is only the fragile illusion of warmth, a flickering fire sparked from pieces of plastic, heating nothing more than hope itself. Each rumble of hunger pierces her tiny frame, a reminder that survival is not just about moving forward, it is a daily struggle to maintain the barest thread of life. Imagine the pain of feeling empty for even a single day, now multiply that by years, the gnawing ache stretching across the days and nights of a childhood stolen by war. Have you ever been truly hungry, even for just one day? Multiply that feeling by years. Comment. Yes, I did. If you have ever shared a plate of food with someone in need. Then, as if the universe had briefly paused to breathe, someone approached Sujoud that day. A kind hand offered her a plate of kapsa rice with meat, warm and fragrant, a meal she had not tasted in what felt like a lifetime. Her small hands trembled as she held it, the aroma alone stirring memories of a life that once felt normal. For the first time in what seemed like forever, Sujoud experienced the comfort of a full, hot meal, a simple pleasure that had been denied to her by the chaos around her. Sujoud smiled. And that smile, pure and luminous, traveled beyond her small corner of the world, touching millions across the internet. It was more than just a curve of her lips, it was the collective joy of all the forgotten children who still cling to hope amidst ruins, the quiet courage of innocence that refuses to be crushed. That simple expression carried the weight of resilience, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, life still seeks to bloom. What is the value of a smile when everything around is in ruins? Write a message of encouragement to Sujoud, as if she could read it right now. With each bite of the warm kapsa, Sujoud feels something she hasn't known in years, strength returning to her small body. Her ribs, once painfully visible beneath her skin, slowly begin to fill out, and her hands, once trembling from weakness, start to steady. Every morsel is more than just food, it is a lifeline, a promise that survival doesn't have to mean suffering endlessly. The world around her is still broken, yet inside her, a quiet revolution begins. The simple act of eating becomes a declaration that life is still worth fighting for. For the first time in what feels like forever, Sujoud dreams of a life that doesn't revolve around survival alone. She imagines laughter, friends, school, and small joys, things most children take for granted. The plate of food she holds in her hands today is not just sustenance, it is a symbol that maybe, just maybe, she can reclaim the childhood stolen from her. Even as rubble surrounds her, this small meal allows her to remember what it feels like to be a child, to feel safety, warmth, and care. Sujoud looks up, her eyes sparkling with a mixture of surprise and quiet triumph. That look is not just gratitude, it is hope, a fragile yet powerful flame refusing to be snuffed out by years of hunger and fear. Each day she eats, each day she feels her strength returning, she becomes more than a survivor, she becomes a symbol for all children trapped in the shadows of war. Can you imagine the courage it takes to find hope after years of suffering, to smile when the world has tried to break you? Comment one word that captures the hope Sujoud inspires. For the first time, Sujoud notices the little things she had long forgotten. The warmth of the sun on her face, the sound of birds chirping above the rubble, the gentle breeze brushing her hair. Each sensation, once taken for granted, now feels miraculous. Even the simple act of feeling full after a meal fills her with awe. These are small joys, yet for a child who has known only hunger and fear, they are monumental victories. Every taste, every warmth, every heartbeat is a reminder that life can still be gentle, even in the harshest corners of the world. The plate of kapsa was more than just food, it was a message. Someone saw her suffering and chose to act, reminding Sujoud that kindness still exists in a world that often forgets children like her. That single gesture ripples through her life, giving her the courage to hope again, to believe that people can care even when the world seems cruel. Each small act of generosity now becomes a lifeline, a spark that fuels her determination to survive, to grow, and to one day thrive. As Sujoud eats, she begins to dream not wildly, not naively, but carefully, tenderly, like a flower slowly peeking through rubble. She imagines going to school, playing with friends, laughing freely without fear. These dreams are fragile, yet powerful, planting seeds of resilience deep within her heart. She understands that survival is not enough. Life can, and must, be more than mere endurance. What would it feel like to watch a child reclaim their right to dream after years of suffering? Comment with the word that best expresses the hope you feel for Sujoud's future. Every meal she eats, every smile she shares, every small victory she claims, rebuilds her from the inside out. Sujoud's journey is far from over. The rubble still surrounds her, the echoes of war still linger, but the flame of hope within her grows stronger each day. Her resilience becomes a quiet rebellion against the cruelty she has endured. With each passing moment, she reminds the world that even after unimaginable hunger, fear, and neglect, a child can find nourishment, joy, and the courage to believe in life again. Social media exploded. Millions shared the image of Sujoud taking her first bite of kapsa. In that single, ordinary act of eating, the stark injustice of war became suddenly visible to the world. One tiny mouth chewing hope became a mirror reflecting the suffering of countless children whose lives are overshadowed by conflict. It was a moment that cut through the noise, forcing millions to confront the unbearable reality that hunger, fear, and loss are not distant stories. They are happening right now, to real children with real dreams. While some children rush to school, clutching books and backpacks, Sujoud walks among ruins, her small hands brushing against rubble instead of toys. War does not merely destroy homes, it erases laughter, shatters dreams, and steals the futures of those who should be carefree. Imagine a childhood without playgrounds, without the innocence of play, without the freedom to simply be a child. Each day she navigates the debris, each step a silent testament to what has been cruelly taken from her. Who deserves this? What crime could a child possibly commit to live under bombs, hunger, and fear? None. Innocent children bear the weight of adult decisions, choices made far from the rubble and sirens that haunt their nights. Each moment of silence, each empty stomach, each night spent sleeping on broken floors is a question the world should be too ashamed to ignore. How would you feel if your child had to sleep on a floor of rubble, with fear as their only blanket? Comment justice for children if you agree that no child should endure this. As images of Sujoud circulated, millions paused, sharing, commenting, and reacting. For a moment, the world could no longer turn away. Her small hands holding a plate of food became a symbol of both the tragedy and resilience of children in war zones. People who had never experienced hunger, fear, or bombs could finally feel, even if just for a second, the weight of a childhood stolen by circumstances beyond control. Each like, each share, each comment became a fragile lifeline connecting her suffering to a world that might finally care. Sujoud still walks among ruins, yet inside her mind, she dares to dream. Dreams of school, of friends, of playgrounds untouched by destruction. She imagines painting, reading, even laughing without fear. Every brick she steps over is a reminder of what she has lost, but also a silent promise. She will survive, she will remember, and she will carry her dreams forward despite the rubble around her. The contrast between her fragile hopes and the harsh reality surrounding her makes every small victory a warm meal, a moment of laughter, a shared smile immensely powerful. And yet, the question lingers, how can the world remain silent when innocence is broken daily? Sujoud did nothing to deserve hunger, war, or fear, and millions of children like her face the same cruel reality. The injustice is clear, and it demands acknowledgement, outrage, and action. Every image, every story, every tear shared online becomes a challenge to humanity, to stop ignoring what children endure, to demand accountability, and to fight for a world where no child has to survive on scraps. Can you imagine the courage it takes to live every day under constant threat, without the protection of adults who are supposed to care? Comment justice for children if you agree that these innocent lives deserve protection. After days of surviving on scraps and plastic, the warmth of a real meal begins to change Sujoud. Her stomach, once empty and aching, now feels the relief of nourishment. Each bite restores more than strength, it restores dignity, a tiny rebellion against the harshness that has surrounded her life for so long. She begins to understand that survival is not just about avoiding death, it is about reclaiming life, one small step, one small meal, one fleeting moment of comfort at a time. Sujoud's smile grows brighter with each passing day, her laughter softer but more genuine. Simple things, a warm drink, clean clothes, a safe corner to rest, become miracles in her eyes. The rubble is still around her, the war still rages in the distance, but she has discovered something the world cannot destroy: hope. Every act of kindness she receives, every small gift of food, every shared moment of care, reinforces the belief that life can be gentle again, even after unimaginable hardship. Her story spreads, not just as a tale of suffering, but as a symbol of resilience. Millions see her face, her tiny hands holding food, her eyes shining with fragile hope. She becomes a reminder that even amidst chaos, children can teach the world about courage, about the power of survival, and about the importance of compassion. How would it feel to see a child rise from unimaginable hardship and inspire the world simply by living? Comment one word that captures the hope Sujoud brings to life. Each meal, each smile, each small victory rebuilds Sujoud piece by piece. She is not just a survivor, she is a symbol of the human spirit's endurance, proof that even the smallest flame of hope can illuminate the darkest corners. Though the streets around her are still shattered, her heart begins to heal. The war has taken much, but it cannot steal her determination to live, to grow, and to dream. Sujoud's journey is far from over, but her story reminds the world that life, even after the deepest despair, is always worth fighting for. Sujoud's story is heartbreaking, but it is not unique. Thousands of Palestinian children, and countless others in war-torn countries, live the same nightmare every day: hunger, fear, rubble as playgrounds, and a childhood stolen before it even began. How many more images of small hands clutching scraps, empty eyes searching for hope, must we see before the world finally reacts? Each story reflects a global failure, a mirror showing humanity what we are allowing to happen while silence persists. Every tear shed by a child in war is an open wound in humanity itself. These children did not choose to be born into chaos, yet the rest of the world chooses, every day, how to respond or not respond to their pain. Each sob, each pang of hunger, each frightened glance should move us to act, to protect, to care. Their suffering is not distant, it is a call for empathy, a challenge to awaken the conscience of anyone willing to listen. Millions began to speak up, demanding a ceasefire, exposing injustice, and refusing to let Sujoud's suffering be invisible. She was no longer just a child eating a single meal, she became a symbol, a voice that carried the weight of thousands. Her story reminded the world that silence is deadly, that awareness must lead to action, and that even the smallest gesture, sharing, speaking out, protesting, can ripple across continents and touch hearts that might finally decide to act. Do you believe that sharing, speaking, and raising awareness can make a difference? Comment yes, it does if you believe that every voice counts. As Sujoud's story spread, the world could no longer pretend it did not exist. Millions of people saw her small hands clutching food, her eyes wide with fragile hope, and felt the weight of a childhood stolen by war. Social media became a mirror, reflecting both the horror of reality and the capacity for collective empathy. Every view, every comment, every share was a spark, igniting awareness in hearts that might otherwise remain closed. The story reminded the world that suffering is not distant, it is immediate, and it is our responsibility to see it clearly. Knowing what children like Sujoud endure brings a heavy responsibility. We cannot look away, we cannot dismiss their pain as someone else's problem. Each day we scroll past images of hunger and destruction, we are confronted with a moral choice: to act, or to remain complicit in silence. Their lives, fragile and precious, demand attention, compassion, and action. The innocence stolen from these children becomes a mirror of our own humanity. How we respond defines who we are. Even the smallest actions, sharing a story, donating, speaking out, can ripple across the world, creating moments of hope for children who have lost so much. Sujoud's meal, a simple plate of kapsa, became a catalyst for millions to act, to question, and to demand justice. Every effort counts, every voice matters, every gesture of empathy becomes a lifeline. How would it feel to know that your small action could save hope, dignity, or even life for a child like Sujoud? Comment one small thing you have done or will do to help. Sujoud's story did not stay in Gaza. It traveled across countries, languages, and cultures, reaching millions who had never imagined living through war, hunger, and fear as a child. Her small face, holding that first hot meal, became a universal symbol of suffering and resilience. People who had been distant from conflict suddenly felt its weight in their hearts. The images forced the world to confront the question, if this can happen to one child, how many more are silently enduring the same pain, unseen and unheard? Each reaction, each comment, each share became more than social media noise, it became a pulse of empathy. Adults remembered the vulnerability of childhood, parents imagined their own children in her place, and communities began to feel the moral urgency that Sujoud's suffering demanded. Her meal, her smile, her survival became a bridge connecting strangers through shared humanity, forcing the question, what will we do when confronted with injustice so stark, so undeniable? The world has a choice, to remain silent or to act. Sujoud's story is a mirror reflecting what happens when injustice is allowed to persist unchecked. Each child in conflict is a living testament to that choice, a voice pleading for protection, for care, for acknowledgement. Can you imagine the courage it takes to face war, hunger, and fear as a child, day after day, and still cling to hope? Comment one word that expresses what you feel seeing Sujoud survive and inspire the world. Every image shared, every story told, every act of solidarity becomes a seed of change. Sujoud's first meal, her reclaimed smile, her fragile hope, these are not just moments, they are catalysts, urging the world to confront its responsibilities. The rubble may still surround her, but her story spreads light into places of darkness, challenging each of us to recognize that every child deserves nourishment, safety, and the freedom to dream. The fight is far from over, yet even one small flame can illuminate the path toward justice and compassion. A call for an end to war. A call for an end to bombs raining from the sky. A call for an end to children being trapped as victims in conflicts they cannot even comprehend. Sujoud's story screams the urgent need for peace, a world where no small hand trembles from fear, no stomach goes empty because of decisions made far from the rubble, and no laughter is silenced by the sound of destruction. We cannot know what tomorrow holds for Sujoud. Her life is still fragile, uncertain, and precarious. But her image has already changed us today. Her hunger awakened awareness, her smile became a symbol of resistance, and her story has been etched into memory. Every viewer who has seen her face carries a piece of her struggle and resilience, a reminder that every child deserves to live, to eat, to dream. What lesson does Sujoud's story leave you with? Sujoud looks at us from a screen, but she could be standing beside any one of us. We cannot turn away. While she fights to survive in a world of rubble and fear, we have a choice, to remain silent or to raise our voices for peace. Her life is fragile, her story urgent, and her message clear. The world must act, and every voice matters. What will you do after hearing this story? Will you remain silent, or will you speak out? Comment "Stop the War" if you want this call to reach as far as possible. Sujoud's tiny face and fragile hands became a voice too powerful to ignore. Each post, each share, each comment carried a collective plea for peace, a refusal to let her suffering be invisible. Her story forced millions to confront what many had tried to overlook, that children in war zones are not statistics, they are real lives, real hearts, and real dreams. The images of her eating that simple meal reverberated across the globe, awakening empathy and stirring a demand for action in every heart that witnessed her courage. Awareness is not passive, it is the first step toward justice. Seeing Sujoud struggle with hunger, fear, and the rubble of her world makes it impossible to remain indifferent. Every stomach growl she endured, every tear she shed, becomes a reminder of our shared responsibility. Each of us carries the power to act, to advocate, to speak, and to demand that no child be left to endure what she has faced. Her survival is not just a personal victory, it is a challenge for the world to rise to the occasion. Sujoud's story teaches that hope is contagious. One meal, one smile, one moment of safety can inspire millions to act, to care, and to refuse to accept silence as the answer. Her courage becomes a spark that illuminates the darkness, showing that even the smallest gestures, sharing a story, raising awareness, giving, can ripple outward, touching lives and creating change. Can you imagine how much impact your voice could have if you chose to speak up for those like Sujoud? Comment one action you will take to make a difference. Sujoud's small image, clutching that first meal, traveled far beyond Gaza. It reached homes, classrooms, and hearts in places she may never see. Her story sparked conversations, tears, and outrage, reminding us all that the suffering of one child is a reflection of humanity's failure if ignored. People who had once been distant from war suddenly felt its weight, recognizing that the life of a single child can carry a message that echoes across borders, cultures, and languages, demanding that we act rather than remain bystanders. The courage of a child who survives hunger, fear, and bombs becomes a quiet, powerful inspiration. Sujoud's resilience reminds the world that even amidst destruction, hope can persist. Her tiny hands, once trembling over scraps of plastic, now reach for life itself with determination and strength. Every day she survives is a challenge to injustice, a declaration that even the youngest can embody bravery, and a lesson that no act of kindness or attention to suffering is ever too small to matter. Every image, every story, every tear forces a question upon the world: will we act or will we remain silent? Children like Sujoud did not choose their circumstances, yet they bear the consequences of choices made by others. Their suffering becomes a mirror, reflecting our own humanity and testing our moral courage. Can you imagine the burden of surviving under constant fear, hunger, and chaos as a child, and still clinging to hope? Comment one word that captures how Sujoud's story moves you and inspires action. Sujoud's life, her struggle, her first hot meal, and her fragile smile become more than a story, they are a spark for change. Though the streets around her remain shattered and dangerous, her story illuminates the darkness, reminding us that every child deserves safety, nourishment, and the freedom to dream. Her journey is far from over, but the flame of hope she carries is unstoppable, challenging the world to rise, speak, and act. Every heart that sees her story becomes part of a collective effort to demand justice, protection, and peace for those who have suffered too long.